First of all, thanks everyone. And I would have been there today, but my wife and daughter were exposed to someone who had COVID. And so we got a call, yesterday morning saying that, they had been exposed to it. So we've been pretty careful about not wanting to expose anyone. And I do have a COVID test later on this afternoon. Anyway, let me just start off here. So welcome, to today's Discover the X Factor and Unclutter Your Business session on how to accelerate your SAP S4 journey. So my name is Marc Beaulieu, and I'm a senior solution architect here at Tricentis. And, I've spent the better part of 30 plus years in the quality assurance space, and I'm thrilled to be here today to talk about, how to accelerate your SAP journey. And really, the question comes down to, are you ready? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm married to the love of my life, and for the last 25 years, and I'm the proud father of one girl, a 21-year-old daughter who's finishing up her fourth year at the University of Toronto. And I'm also an avid golfer, and there's a little bit of a theme in and around that in my presentation. Okay, there's my girls. So I started off my career as a software developer, and I quickly realized that software testing was way cooler. So I decided to become a certified software quality engineer with the American Society for Quality. I went on to work for a few small companies. You might recognize some of these names, but Microsoft, IBM, HP, three-letter security agency in the East End of Ottawa. It's our little spy agency. Micro Focus in 3.5 years, the last 3.5 years at Tricentis. And if I didn't already mention it, I'm an avid golfer. So for those of here today, online and in the room, let me ask you a question. Would you do this? I mean, would you jump out of an airplane? I can't see anyone, so I'm just going to keep going. But, for me, it's an absolute no. And let me tell you just a quick golf story. Okay, 2004, I go to Myrtle Beach like I do every March. And, after the round of golf, the 8 of us are sitting around having a beer. And once the guy started talking about skydiving and about how it's on his bucket list and that he's been looking into doing a jump, like here in Myrtle. And I'm like, wow. Anyway, one of the guys asked me if it was on my bucket list. And I said, sure, but, maybe 20 years ago. Anyway, the guys just didn't stop asking me for 2 days if I was coming. I mean, they were putting a lot of pressure on me to change my mind. Every day they kept asking me, are you coming? Are you going to come jump? Or, maybe we're on the course and they'd say, hey, if you don't make this putt, you're coming skydiving. So, nope, it's still a no for me. I kept making my putts, but, they started calling me the Gran Pollo, the big chicken. Yeah. But, if I really had to consider this, what would it take for me to say yes? Okay. Well, I want the best equipment available for sure. The best parachute, flight suit, goggles. Okay. But am I really ready? Okay. There might be a few other things to consider, even if I had the best equipment. For me to be truly ready, I think I'd have to make sure that, my life insurance policy was up to date. And that may have actually been a requirement from my wife. I would also want it to be a calm, clear day. And then what about the landing? I'd also want to make sure that I understood where I was going to land, because the waters below could be filled with sharks. I could be landing on land. I just want to, if there's any second thoughts, I want to have some kind of certainty that the process and the preparation for doing something like this is going to be helping me to be successful. And, skydiving is kind of a one-time shot if you don't prepare properly. I like this image, and I think it's really helpful metaphor when you're thinking about, accelerating your SAP S4 journey. And I think it's safe to say no one here is going to jump out of a plane or do an SAP transformation without being prepared. But today we want to help you understand what it means to be ready and how to be prepared for activities and projects that have a high level of risk. I talk to companies, every day across the country, US and Canada, and they think that they're ready. but in reality, it may not be ready enough. And so I want to talk to you about what ready really means and put that in the context of the latest innovations in software test automation. Because I don't know one company out there that is planning to transform their SAP environment twice. I mean, companies have to get it right the first time, and testing can make or break an SAP transformation. And, we know that 25% of IT budgets are spent on testing. And the number one barrier to achieving business speed and agility is testing. And when companies go down a strategic SAP initiative like a transformation, I mean, these are multi-million-dollar projects, and they absolutely require testing. Yet companies still don't put enough emphasis on it, or they put it off till later. So not having the right testing strategy is like jumping out of a plane without going through a pre-flight checklist, So to put that in the context of a business process in an IT corporate landscape, SAP comprises of about 20 to 30% of the technology in an end-to-end business process. And we know this through talking to enterprise architects, max attention clients, and consultants. And the largest SIs have verified this, and even our end users agree. And so if you're going to jump out of a plane and go skydiving, even on a guy's golf trip, I mean, you want to make sure that your parachute is 100% packed, not 20% or 30%. Okay? Now picture this. I mean, you're in this little plane, you're, a couple thousand feet up in the air, and it's super windy, it's very loud, and you're getting ready for that moment. You're about to scratch that item off your bucket list. I mean, everyone is pumped, and now it's your turn to jump out of the plane. You look over at your skydiving instructor and ask, hey, how's my chute look? And the instructor replies, well, I looked at it. It's about 20 or 30% packed. You should be good to go. Go ahead and jump. Well, no one's going to do that, and you're not going to risk failure in skydiving. You want to make sure that it's 100% packed and all of your equipment is in good working order. So you're not going to risk failure skydiving, and companies aren't going to risk failure either in their SAP transformations. So to summarize this part up, I mean, if you're going to be involved in an incredibly high-risk activity, you want to make sure that you understand what ready really means for you in the most comprehensive way to reduce that risk to make sure that you land safely. So to translate this into what it means for SAP customers going on an upgrade migration or transformation journey like, an S/4HANA upgrade as an example, I mean, companies need to focus on the entire business process, not just that little SAP portion because, something has changed. And from a technology standpoint, 70% of the business process can live outside of SAP and also needs to be tested. I mean, this is the true, end-to-end test. So as far as an example, without oversimplifying, what we can do is we can generally break it down into 3 primary phases. And these phases have a lot of requirements and needs in order to make sure that, we build the effects of confidence with customers to realize success. We're looking for a successful outcome. I mean, so we can say that there's a planning phase, a testing phase, and a run phase. And these phases have several different kinds of requirements in them for example, the need to identify the migration business process, benchmarking, planning for custom code retirement. On the build test side, there's all sorts of regression testing and need for automation to speed things up, running performance testing, performance tuning, code optimization on the run side. I mean, it's all about understanding the KPIs and delivering upgrade patches, as well as continuous integration delivery. And of course, I mean, we can't forget about compliance. And so, when I think about, the preparation process for jumping out of a plane, I mean, I want it to be comprehensive, and I want to make sure that I'm going to land safely on the other side. Now let's focus on how Tricentis helps in these 3 areas of preparation. Okay, let's talk about risk coverage. I mean, the first thing is always keeping risk in focus, right? And what I mean by that is application areas or changes that are most at risk and in the context of an SAP transformation. These are the most important capabilities, the things that hurt you the most if they don't work right. And in skydiving, what's most at risk? The ground. You want to make sure that you keep that in sight and in focus. So when it's time to pull that ripcord, from the parachute, you can land safely. And the same is true in your SAP migrations, making sure that, along that journey, you're testing the right things at the right time to make sure that you get there faster and safer. Next is acceleration, accelerating testing specifically. And you want to take advantage of the speed and the ROI that you're going to gain throughout that SAP journey, right? So you don't want to miss out on automating early. And I see that time and time again. I've worked with many companies that have made the choice to put automation off. And so every day, every month, every quarter, every year that goes by that they don't automate, they're continually doing manual testing. They don't have any automation assets in place, to propel or accelerate that initiative forward. So, my tip, other than don't go skydiving, my tip is if you have the opportunity to automate today, do it. Start right now because it's going to pay dividends down the road. Lastly, reducing cost. And, it's funny when we talk to business leaders and we say, hey, we know that speed, risk, and cost are the top 3 things that you care about. And if you had to stack rank them, what would that look like? So at the top, speed and risk, they're often flip-flopped, and cost more often than not is at the bottom. And here's why. It's not that cost is not important, but smart companies know that, hey, if you're going to solve for risk and speed, that, over time, cost is going to take care of itself. So, why is this essential? The best way to explain this and why this all matters is through the context of critical business needs. Organizations, like humans, have feelings and they have needs. Their feelings are the result of needs that are not being met. So, for example, companies that guess 40% of the time make a lot of mistakes in their business, and it causes organizational angst. In our competitive markets, companies have a need for confidence and integrity in their decisions. 60% of business leaders decide with confidence. Companies must identify risks and predict business outcomes when there's still time to do something about them. Business leaders realize that making timely, confident decisions is essential to improve productivity and increase that customer loyalty. For this reason, 60% of executive decision makers, or 59, are actively using data and analytics for strategic decisions. So organizations have a lot of fear as it relates to finding and keeping their customers. They have a need for empathic connections, right? 79% recognize the importance of connecting processes. And a recent survey found, 79% of business leaders agree that the ability to connect business processes across systems allow organizations to improve customer experience and streamline operations. Organizations are invigorated and excited when they find their groove of business growth and evolution. 72% continuously innovate. In the same way, business leaders now see significant opportunities in digital disruption. Disruption is the new norm, so disrupt or be disrupted. 72% say that rather than waiting to be disrupted by competitors, their organizations are actively disrupting their own sectors. They agree that the ability to continuously invent new approaches and implement them is essentially growing a competitive advantage. So why me? Why Tricentis? Companies invest millions of dollars in their SAP and non-SAP technologies that run their business. They spend even more on the services that SI that SIs provide for these digital transformations. And I'm not saying, it's a bad thing. I'm just highlighting, where companies have chosen to spend their money. I mean, you, on one hand, you keep the lights on, or do you innovate? And when companies innovate and change, we ensure that the value of these investments are met. A positive business outcome for the investment in technology or services. And at its highest level, don't think of it as testing, but business assurance. Okay. The results of our customers is what you see on the right-hand side. I mean, it's about acceleration. Our customers see at 10 times acceleration in their release cycles. Test acceleration, and this is done through a model-based code automation platform. And this really puts automation back into the hands of the manual tester. And this is really, about being disruptive in the testing industry. Secondly is risk reduction. And while always keeping risk in focus, here we're able to pinpoint through some AI what changes have actually occurred and provide a level of test coverage, meaning, how much test coverage do I have? We represent this as hits and gaps. Hits are the most at-risk areas we have coverage for, and the gaps are the areas that we don't have coverage for. And I want you to think of these as, the blind spots. That's really important for decision makers and business leaders because the fear of the unknown is the number one reason why CIOs hit pause on moving forward on SAP transformations. They don't know what they don't know, and our platform answers those questions and it removes the blind spots. Lastly, it's all about lower costs. And over time, we see, the three things. First, you get the acceleration from our model-based test automation, and then you see, a significant test scope reduction, and then there's cost avoidance in hypercare. And so let me expand on these for you. So for acceleration, you get this through creating automated test cases because there is no code. It's a model-based approach. So more people can do it, and more people can be involved in the quality testing. And this means more people can create test cases, okay? But more importantly, more people can maintain those tests when change actually happens, right? For the test scope reduction. And so, when we look at the most important or the most critical business functions in our SAP application, we can focus on just those changes. And our customers typically see an 85% reduction in test scope because they're focused on testing exactly what the change is. And they always know what they're testing, that they're testing the right things at the right time. I mean, would you rather test, all of the modules in SAP, or would you rather test just the most at-risk objects? Lastly is cost avoidance in hypercare. And, hypercare is expensive for customers. Hypercare cycles are significantly reduced in terms of durations and resources needed for these events in a go-live. And this is because the level of quality is much higher because there's not as many, if any, break-fix cycles, which means, over time, you're releasing into production with zero critical defects. So essentially, Tricentis solutions answer these three important questions. What to test, does it scale, and does it work? So when we look at the core elements of application lifecycle management of SAP, they're design, build, and deploy. And there are the three major questions. So what to test on the right? SAP Change Impact Analysis by Tricentis detects all of the changes in an SAP system. This is our AI technology, and it provides rapid time to value. At the top, does it work? Enterprise Continuous Testing, or ECT, I guess. It's our model-based no-code automation platform. The ECT platform combines no-code automation, risk-based test design, and test data optimization, disrupted by or distributed test execution for scaling test runs and test-driven service virtualization. And all of this creates a level playing field for test automation at any skill level. And, quite often, when I'm doing a demo or something, we say that, this is ideal for manual and business users. EDT, or Enterprise Data Integrity System, is all about, testing the data. So when you start moving from, your data from on-prem to the cloud, you want to be able to trust that data, okay? Does it scale? Enterprise performance testing, okay? This is our cloud-based testing platform, providing the ability to, test Fiori and modern SAP applications like SuccessFactors and Concur. And all of the SAP application lifecycle management is integrated into Solution Manager and going forward into the SAP Cloud ALM. So here's the real value of why Tricentis is an essential part of your SAP transformation, okay? So at the bottom, we support all of SAP's UIs and APIs, without failure. Just about everything. And I've been here 3.5 years. There's not one thing that we cannot test there. In addition to that, with ECT, we can test 170 plus different types of technologies and packaged applications, okay? Distributed test execution, test data provisioning. We can help provide test data and create synthetic data on demand. We can also remove those testing delays caused by waiting for the right test data. Risk-based testing, we can prioritize, test based on business risk. And business risk, or risk-based testing, is really the new currency in testing. And test case design, again, that helps to eliminate some of the redundant test. OSV here, simulate responses from other applications and services. And then, the tool ECT comes ready to be able to do any type of CICD. So if you're going down that DevOps journey and you want to be able to kick off your test cases as soon as you have a new build, you can absolutely do that. And you can have all the results come back in ECT, or they can come back in the Solution Manager, okay? And then on the right, this is our integrations with the change impact analysis or the performance testing. We can have all of those results come back into SolManager. So this is my last slide. And I want to talk about why the new readiness is required. We need a new sense of ready to support the CIO. And when you think about the current state and what businesses are doing to gain a competitive advantage or simply survive, we need to look at how the decision makers, the CIOs, look at how they will be successful. Redirecting resources. This is about investing in the organization. Today, disruption is not the exception, it's the rule. Disrupt or be disrupted. Organizations that have already increased their funding of digital innovation are 2.7 times more likely to be top performers in their industry or vertical. Refocusing IT leadership. And this is about digital business acceleration. Because of the tightened alignment, of the CEO to the CIO now, CIOs will learn more about their business processes as they advise the business. The better CIOs perform for the business, the more the business asks of them. And the majority say that the business is making higher value and more strategic requests. Remodeling operations across the supply chain means automating and connecting the end-to-end business processes. You see supply chain resiliency around SAP and business process optimization. It streamlines business processes by connecting SAP and non-SAP applications. This is the end-to-end process, and the testing capabilities that I talked about earlier. Tricentis tests the integration to ensure, positive business outcome when it goes live, so that your outcome has more accuracy It's faster, has greater productivity and velocity. And last but not least, in the bottom right-hand corner, COVID-19 is not going anywhere. It is still continuing to accelerate the demand for digital products and services. And for example, customers shifted their activity online during the lockdown, increasing, digital demand. And we continue to see this shift in 2022. Organizations that have increased their use of digital channels to reach their customers are 3.5 times more likely to be top performers. 3.5. Wow. Okay, I'll share this last thing with you. Okay, so I'm in South Carolina. I'm at the skydiving school in South Carolina with the guys, and I'm in there, and I'm still thinking about going, but I'm just there to support the guys. And I saw this sign on the wall that said, hey, it said, any idiot can fly a plane, but it takes a special kind of idiot to jump out of one. And that's when, I definitely wasn't going to jump. But anyway, I hope I've been able to give you something to think about, and help you to get ready to, discover the X factor and accelerate your SAP S4 journey. Think about how ready you really are. On behalf of, Tricentis and Stellium, thank you for your time and attention today. And I just want to say, enjoy the rest of the conference. I apologize for not being able to make it, but rather to err on the side of caution, and rather than potentially expose everyone. I do have a COVID test coming up, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay, but I do feel like I have a bit of a cold. Anyway, thank you.
Hope you get well soon and your family. Have you tried skydiving? Right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Have you tried skydiving?
I have not. Like I said, I got pretty close. I actually, went to the skydiving school with the guys, and, they put the jumpsuit on me, and they really tried to get me to do it. And I did the training with the guys, and I just couldn't do it. And I just risk adverse. And for me, that was too much risk to potentially do. So, no.
Thank you. And I shall open the table for questions. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, thanks for the presentation, and I always like presentations riddled with analogies and allegories. So thanks for that. I have a question. Do you have any particular example fresh in your mind that you can cite on how Tricentis platform accelerated and reduced the risk from an S4 implementation?
Yeah, you know what? There's so many examples. Let me just think of one here. 1 second. I've got a really good one. Let's see. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but the one that kind of comes to mind is the Bose Corporation in Massachusetts. They're the guys who make the speakers and the headphones and whatnot. They had some extremely long testing cycles. They were doing a lot of things manually. They had SAP for a long time, and the QA manager brought in, at the time it was IntelliCorp, and they were just kind of transitioning into Tricentis. And so myself and a couple of my colleagues had gone in to talk about, first of all, ECT, but they were really interested in this product called the change impact analysis. And what that did is, it took a look at all of their SAP transports, and it was able to identify all of the T codes that were changing. And when we installed, we did a little pilot with them, and so you install the change impact analysis. It takes less than a day, but it provides rapid time to value. What we do is we take a look at the STO3 log, and we take a look at all of the changes. And depending on how far back your data goes, it could be 3 months, 6 months, potentially longer. Anyway, we were able to identify all of the things that had changed. And so we were able to start helping them to identify, what are all the areas of change that absolutely need to be tested. And so we ran this, and we actually, gave them an output, and we said, you need to create these test cases. And we actually were able to look into, they had an ALM, a test management tool. We were able to take a look at that. Now, mind you, they were all mostly manual test cases, but we were able to say, okay, you have these test cases that will cover off these changes. And then, but more importantly, it was the blind spots that I was talking about. These are the things that they needed to create test cases for. So the tool created a requirements list as well as an execution list. The requirements list told them what they needed to create. The execution list was something that they could start running immediately manually. From that point, they were pretty much sold. They did also buy ECT, and they were able to start to create the test cases. And, the beauty of ECT is that, they were able to create the reusable test cases. And maintenance, there is maintenance, but, when that business, when the modules or the application changes, you update the modules. Okay, and think of these modules as kind of Lego blocks. You update the modules, and all of the test cases that are associated to them automatically get updated. They saw a 350% increase in their change, in being able to keep track of that. And they went from, like, I don't know, they probably were, had 2 or 3 releases a year, and they were up to almost like 3 a month, I think. So the number was just phenomenal. And we continue to see that across the globe with people who are, using change impact analysis along with ECT. It's been just a fantastic tool to be able to use. And I've worked with a lot of companies, in my career, and I've always focused on quality assurance and automation. And this is the first time that, I've seen a tool that is so powerful and makes such an impact. It just blows me away.
Thank you. I think one example that comes to my mind collectively is when we helped one of the medical device manufacturers out of Minnesota, where we have their S4 implementation through Tricentis platform automation, automated more than 70 processes, and helped them scale course on their 2022 launch, which was getting threatened because of the amount of testing that was done. The other area where platforms like Tricentis becomes extremely helpful is when you have a rinse and repeat situation, where think about a 30, 35, 40 warehouse deployment of an EWM system. You use this test automation platform to automate all your warehouse deployment test cases, do it on a pilot, refine them. Once it is ready, you just rinse and repeat those tests as you roll out. So the rollout timelines get significantly optimized. At the same time, you know that you have a regression environment, that every time there is a change being made to a particular site, you already have a regression suite to run the regressions right during the development. So your ultimate integration testing gets reduced, your UAT gets accelerated, and overall there is a little calmness compared to otherwise on such large scale deployments. Thanks, Mark.
No problem. Thank you.